Ghost Hunter shows where, they just come in, flip everything while you're gone.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. So for me, next time I go away, you'll change it again. It'll be awesome. All right, we're
it's going to be great, Alex.
To the closing bell right here in the U.S. in our brand new studio. Let's take a look here on where markets are. It's not just about Apple. It's not just about NVIDIA. And I say that because you know what? It's actually kind of about utilities. The S&P is not doing that much, up by about 0.1%, but it's PG&E that's doing really, Romaine. The rally is today broadening out just a bit.
Yeah, we're going to get to all of those points in just a second here, but there is going to be a big focus today on big tech. Really, because on the back, we're getting that NVIDIA stock split today taking effect. And then, of course, Apple unleashing its salvo in the artificial intelligence race. A salvo, we should point out, that fell a bit flat with investors who had to wait more than an hour. But really, for the sake of the broader tech trade, which still remains narrowly focused on chip makers like NVIDIA, NVIDIA, of course, a stock priced at 40 times projected profits over 12 months. That's almost double that for the S&P as a whole. In fact, more than half of this year's rally right now attributable to 4 of the 5 biggest stocks in. That doesn't mean everyone, though, is over big tech and AI, but investors, they clearly want to see if anyone, Alex, other than NVIDIA, can actually profit from this hype train.
Yeah, and you wonder if that's kind of what's happening to Apple today. So let's circle back to that first story that Romaine was talking about, what's going on with Apple. This is the beautiful chart over the last year. You could at least seen a really strong run up ever since that low in April. It's up by about 18% since then. It is right around a 52-week high, but you can see right here, that is a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. You have Apple down by nearly 4% after that announcement. And the question really is it because investors were disappointed with any of the hype? Is it because they talked about AI late in the game and they didn't weave it throughout the full 2 hours? Or
today's countdown to the close, live from Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, where Bloomberg's very own Jackie Davalos is standing by outside of the headquarters there in Cupertino, California here. And I guess the big announcement, Jackie, the big redhead on the terminal was that partnership with OpenAI.
I would say, didn't know that it was going to come out. I did see some of the, the way it's going to be used or practical use cases of that. So I would say is no new surprises. That's probably why it's down a little bit.
There's been a lot of talk here, Anurag, about how this gets integrated into the various Apple products, and more importantly, whether that is going to be enticement enough for folks to refresh, whether it's their phones, their iPads, or their Macs. Do you see that potential in the short term for that to happen?
No, I do.
That has AI. Well, UBS found that interest in an AI phone is actually muted. A recent survey expects iPhone purchase interest to remain soft, with the analysts saying that outside of China, Gen AI interest is lukewarm, with just 27% of respondents indicated they are interested in a smartphone with Gen AI, while 28% noting they're not interested, with the balance indifferent. Joining us now to talk about the state of innovation at the company is Apple co-founder Steve Onset. You're our first guest on set for the new show.
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
We're going to get you a hat or a t-shirt.
I need something.
Okay, perfect. We're going to
make my hair a little darker.
We're going to wear.
Can you shoot me?
Someone can.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so let's take a broader view then when it comes to AI. How does the U.S. take the appropriate amount of risk to make sure that it can stay ahead?
Oh, that's a great question, quite honestly.
Back of analyst recommendations today, and that includes Krispy Kreme, an upgrade over at Truist to buy. With the analysts there saying Americans love their donuts way too much to give them up forever. Says that negative impact from GLP weight loss drugs, that's already been priced in. And he sees the potential for several years of growth given that partnership with McDonald's. Shares up 5.5%. Next up, let's take a look at Walmart, an upgrade over at JP Morgan to overweight, with the analysts excited about Walmart's strong balance of defense and offense in face of inflation-battered shoppers who have an uncertain path ahead. Shares of Walmart today up about 1.5%. And finally, Advanced Micro Devices, a cut to equal weight over at Morgan Stanley on the notion that investors may be too optimistic about the chip maker's AI business. The analyst says AMD is more expensive compared to NVIDIA and Broadcom, which are more likely to see upward revisions in the AI space. Those shares down 4% on the day. And those are some of our top calls. Now, we do want to continue in the AI space and in the tech space and in the Apple space, as well as those shares also falling here as the optimism around its AI offering coming up just a little bit short, at least here on this day. As we try to size up the AI race going forward and all the challenges up ahead.
And we also have a great lineup of guests for you. Just take a look at there. We have Bill Gross. We also have the CEO. You have the CEO of Sotheby's coming up, right?
Yeah.
You also have, I can't read
And
that far.
Stacy Spikes over at MoviePad. was one of the founders of MoviePass, got kind of forced out, and now he's back. There's a big documentary about this, and Olalo Aganga over at Mercer also going to be joining us as well. A huge lineup today.
Better eyesight than me. You definitely went on that point.
Yeah, that's called memory, Alex.
Yeah.
I couldn't read that either. I think my eyesight's way worse than yours.
Fair enough. Okay, in the markets here, you're looking at S&P up by 0.3%. You got the Nasdaq, though, outperforming up by 0.4%, and the Dow relatively flat on the day as well. You also have some selling in the bond market, particularly on the back end of the bond market on this Monday. It is a very big week of economic news, and just a few of the highlights include that CPI report, the latest Fed decision on Wednesday. We're also going to keep an eye on producer prices and jobless claims on Thursday. Let's get some insight on what it all means for the bond market. Joining us is the bond king himself, Bill Gross, co-founder of PIMCO. Bill, it's our launch day. It's our first show on the new set. We relaunched. We super appreciate it.
Now, too, Alex, the Stamp King as well. A lot more coming up here on the close on our new revamped set here on Studio 2 at Bloomberg headquarters in New York. We'll be back in a moment.
In AI, but it's in those derivative plays in particular. You're taking like utilities really outperforming overall. The best performing stock in the S&P is Constellation Energy. PG&E up huge, got a nice upgrade, and you can really see
Did
there
you
the
rig
momentum.
this so it was all just about like energy and utilities today?
Did I purposely do that for the launch of our new show?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I have that skill.
You have that power,
I
really?
do. It's
Okay,
amazing.
I need some investment advice after the show then. You give me some tips here. All right, well, you see the movements there here. Unfortunately, Apple not participating here on this day. A bit of a disappointment here coming out of that big AI announcement. We want to continue our coverage here as we count you down to the close with Olalo Aganga.
High. So basically, the probability the stocks will be higher a year from now hit 40.3%. Like, the optimism is there. You're getting money, you're getting return. You feel good about it.
The optimism is there, and I guess does that translate into better gains? Because it seems like they've still kind of been incremental over the last, I don't know, few weeks.
But is that the momentum? Like, is that the YOLO and the FOMO?
Some people would say it's actually healthy to get the incremental moves rather than the big ones as we break down all your market moves as we get closer to those closing bells right here on Bloomberg.
The Closing Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close, starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostic alongside Alex Steele. And here to help take us through the closing bell, it's our global simulcast. We're joined right now by Scarlett Fu in our newly revamped Studio 2 here in the Bloomberg World headquarters. Meanwhile, Tim Stenovic and Carol Master, they're still in that old radio booth.
You know
but we still love them more than anything else as we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg. I got a whole script here to read, Tim Stenovic and Carol Master, but I'm done. Go ahead.
Be good, you know. Sometimes even better.
I just wanted to make sure I was in the right place.
Yeah.
I also want to say congratulations on just a fantastic relaunch.
So nice.
Thank you. I worked really hard on this. Every weekend I was in here hammering everything together.
Yeah, working on the big screens behind you, right?
It's a lot
the
of work.
big
Should have seen him in his overalls.
Did you compose the music too, Romaine?
Yeah.
I do like it.
Did his overalls have a flower? That's all I want to know.
Yes. We'll go with yes. It's all fictional. Yes, they do, Carol.
That makes me so happy. All right, should we talk about the markets?
If you must.
What's going on today?
AI for the rest of us, Carol.
Yeah,
That's
AI.
what's going on today.
All in on AI. Although Apple shares right a little bit lower, guys.
Yeah, all in on AI.
Well, that's because Apple doesn't have its own AI, right? It's linking up with all these other companies.
Does
to do it.
anybody have its own AI? Is it all
Anthropic does. OpenAI does. Google's doing a pretty good job. Meta Platforms, you could argue, has its own with Llama.
And NVIDIA makes money no matter what.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's a good deal. When does this translate to Apple, though? Am I supposed to run out and buy an iPhone because of what they said today?
Yeah, maybe an iPhone 15 Pro or the next iteration of the iPhone, which I'm guessing is going to be called the iPhone 16, Romaine.
Okay, I'll put that on my calendar for, I don't know, what is it, 2045? All right, we get the closing bells here in New York. Green day across the screen, though the gains are relatively incremental. You're looking at a Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 70 points on the day, or about 0.2%. The S&P 500 up about 14 points, or 0.3%, while the NASDAQ Composite looking to close out the day right now as we wait for these numbers to settle higher by about 59 points, or 0.4%. You saw a little bit more action here in the cyclical space here. Dow Transport's up about 0.9%, and the Russell 2000 going to close out the day higher by 5 points, or 0.25 percentage point.
All right, interesting, guys. Back to the S&P 500. 280 names to the upside right now. 221 losing some ground today. So not quite an even split, and two that are unchanged, Scarlett.
Yeah, let's take a look at the industry groups. This is, of course, IMAP, which shows you which sectors are in the green, which sectors are in the red. You've got utilities, and Alex, this is, of course, Constellation Energy, Vistra, which you've been talking about for a while now, gaining 1.25% as a group. Energy in second place, and communication services up by 0.6%. The laggards here are financials, consumer staples, and materials, but they're not falling by a whole lot.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers, if I may, on this Monday. Southwest, up at its highs, 9.4% to the upside, finishing the day with a 7% gain.
Oh, I don't know.
You know, it's kind of wacky.
Batman fans here.
Yeah.
Across platform, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals.
What about Superman?
All right, yeah. Who doesn't love a superhero?
Wonder Woman.
Catwoman?
All right, meow. All right, we'll see you guys.
Go to break.
tomorrow.
It's so easy to beat her. All right, stick with us here on Bloomberg Television. Our coverage continues here. Some great conversations up ahead, including with the CEO of Sotheby's and the CEO of MoviePass. You'd want to take a listen to that. Yeah, this is actually the original co-founder of MoviePass. A great story there. And we're also going to talk to the former India Central Bank Governor Raghuram Rajan. A nice preview here up ahead of all the big central bank decisions later this week. That's coming up next on The Close on Bloomberg.
Welcome back to the New Look Close. I'm Scarlett Fu.
And I'm Romaine Bostic. Don't you love this
Yeah,
new studio? It's so
brighter.
fresh and bright, and I guess that's maybe one reason why we saw a little bit of green on the screen. I guess we'll take credit for it. Incremental gains for the major markets here in the U.S. with the S&P back at that 53.61 level. We'll call it up about 0.3% here on the day. Similar moves across the board. There wasn't a huge updraft in tech stocks here on the day. NVIDIA did get a bid, but Apple, Scarlett, a little bit disappointing here. I think we were expecting a little bit more of a pop on the back of that AI announcement, but Apple finishing in the red.
Yeah, Apple finishing in the red, but let's talk about a tech company that did finish in the green. CrowdStrike up at record high, 7.3% gain, excuse me. S&P said it's adding the cybersecurity firm along with KKR and GoDaddy to the S&P 500 effective at the start of trading on June 24th. Now, this gain is all positioning before passive index funds are forced to buy the stock to keep their holdings aligned with the changes in the S&P 500, the underlying index. And we're also keeping an eye on GameStop. Of course, Roaring Kitty came out on Friday and mentioned that he is still bullish on the stock, but that wasn't enough to lift the stock. And again, it's extending its decline.
Or what's going on.
And you got to convince Sherry Redstone to go along with you because she holds all the voting shares.
That's right. Here, you know how you can do that?
That's right. All right, well, the third person we're watching, speaking.
All right, time to look back in history. On this day, back in 1993, Steven Spielberg's dinosaur dream, Jurassic Park, began previews on roughly 1,400 screens across the U.S. It was an immediate hit, taking in a thin record, $47 million in its extended opening weekend, and it would go on to be the highest-grossing film of 1993 and eventually surpass $1 billion in ticket sales worldwide. Now, while its box office records have been overtaken since by blockbusters like Titanic, Frozen, and Avatar, Jurassic Park's legacy is one that really strikes right at the heart of the Hollywood magic that for decades had drawn so many people to the theater. With 3 Academy Awards for visual and sound.
For the items that you auction off, given that we have risky assets like stocks, like Bitcoin flying so high, what does it look like all this year?
Well, we've just been through, in the last few weeks, our biggest auctions, art auctions so far this year, our May sales. We sold nearly 600 paintings over the course of a week for a little over $630 million. So it's a pretty good barometer of interest and appetite. And I would say that it can only be viewed as an affirming moment for the art market because we had bidding from over 60 countries and a very high sell-through rate.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the bidders, how broad and how wide to users who might be a little skeptical about its use, its application?
Yeah, a lot going on today and a lot going on for the rest of the week. It was a busy show today. We got a lot more coming up tomorrow here on our brand new set, Scarlett.
Yeah, we'll be speaking with Nuveen CIO Sarah Malik, Cisco CEO Chuck Robbins, and the Blue Owl Capital co-CEO.
Yeah, we're also going to have the former governor of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick, on, as well as Rajiv Jain over at GDQ Partners. We continue all our coverage right here on The Close on Bloomberg.